Ladies and gentlefish, it is time to meet the big booty himself, the king of cake, the owner of that thing, the chef, because he's always cooking up his opponents and carrying around that bakery with him. El Colilo de Metsudo, the man whose cheeks telegraph you back shots from a mile away, the man who broke out of a hole just by thrusting those glorious, luscious orbs, the double cheek clapper himself, the Fang of Metsudo himself, Kanoh Agito. You know, I make jokes about Kanoh mostly because of how he's, the cake and everything, but when you realistically look at Kanoh, he is the most developed character in Ashura into Omega. Honestly, I would think there's so much characterization into where Kanoh is right now in Omega versus where he was in Ashura, because even in Ashura, he was just a spectacle to behold. I'm looking at him as a character standpoint right now, of course, because he had so much devotion, and yet he still has such a confliction with his inner self because he was fighting his beast persona. And unlike many characters who do have, that wild side to him, Kanoh actually had people who were trying to tame the beast within him. Katahara, Minoru, Masamichi, all of the bodyguards, they were all trying to calm down Kanoh and create some form of a persona or a person that we actually see him later on become. And it's amazing when you think about it. He may be the fifth Fang of Metsudo, but he is the Fang of Metsudo. This is a character that Sanjo came up with when he had the Fang of Metsudo in mind. Kanoh's entire persona is meant to embody what the Fang of Metsudo truly means. I don't want to hold you guys any further with this video. I'm ready to sink my teeth into this. So let's begin. What is going on, y'all? ZiNG here. And today we're going to talk about the Fang of Metsudo, the fifth Fang of Metsudo, Kanoh Agito. Now, as always with these videos, please feel free to like, comment what you guys think of Kanoh down below. I'll even take any comment pertaining to his cheeks or whatever back down there. So with that, let's go ahead and begin. So Kanoh was one of those weird cases where he was made with the epithet of the Fang of Metsudo in mind before the character was even created. In fact, when Sanjo was making him, he thought to himself that, yo, man, we got to make someone who's like really, really strong and really, really powerful. He actually wanted him and Okubo's fight to be a battle between someone who knew this absurdly deadly fighting style versus someone who's using like the newer style of MMA. And so let's go ahead and talk about his character design for a moment, because it's really unique. You see, like I said before, his epithet is the Fang of Metsudo. I mean, we all know that, of course, but his actual name, Kanoh Agito, is really interesting. Kanoh translates to add or increase, which is synonymous to his evolution or evolving capability, but his name, Agito, refers to a lot of different things, okay? So in Latin, Agito means I move, and in Japanese, it means jaw, which pairs really well with the epithet of Fang. Now, although jaw in Japanese is usually spelled A-G-O, Sanjo spells it in katakana, where it's usually used to translate foreign words. So the reason that Sanjo uses katakana, though, is because Kamen Rider Agito. So yes, I'm talking like the masked rider Agito. So it's very important to understand just how much Kamen Rider Agito had influence on Kanoh Agito. So Kamen Rider Agito was always known to change and evolve throughout the series of Kamen Rider, and his name was often spelled with the Greek symbols Alpha and Omega. So when we look at Kanoh's character, he is exactly that, an Omega or Alpha Apex fighter that's always evolving and changing, growing, getting stronger. That is literally Kanoh to a T. So if we go back to what I mentioned earlier about how Kanoh was supposed to be this practitioner of an absurdly deadly martial arts, it was actually an ancient MMA called Pankration. So in Pankration, it originated in ancient Greece, and it was a combat sport that was paired up alongside boxing and wrestling. Now, the thing with Pankration is that there was no real winner at all unless you were either caught in a submission or you died. That was the only way to determine who was going to be a winner. And a funny thing about this fighting style is that it's believed that Theseus, the founder king of Athens, once used this fighting style in order to defeat a minotaur. So if we look over at his fit, okay, now hold on for a second. I know I'm talking about the Kengan drip tier list, but we got to talk about this fit that this man Kanoh be wearing, okay? Now, this skin tight suit that shows off his absurdly deluxe double D deluxe cake, It is modeled after the LZ Racer competitive swimwear, and it has a very Beetle-like bumpiness that gives off the "I'm strong" vibe, according to Sanjo at least. To me, it gives off a certain other vibe. Here's a little interesting thing for you. Kano's birthday is actually on December 2nd, but it's not really officially his birthday. It's actually a shared birthday with Katahara Metsudo, which brings me to another question. How old was Kano when he was in that cave, or rather when he originally was put through that goo ritual? So let's talk about it. Let's go ahead and talk about his backstory. When Kano was young, he was taken in by the asshole Nico, the other Tokita Nico, the Tokita Nico that's not as cool as our Tokita Nico, but the uncool Tokita Nico, if you would. So the uncool Nico taught Kano how to use martial arts, as well as a little bit of the formless and the Nico style. He just splashed in the Nico style on top of that. The uncool Nico put Kano and all of his other students through a ritual called, I'm going to say this wrong, Gu. Now, in this Gu ritual, it was originally used in ancient China, where centipedes are placed in a jar and forced to cannibalize each other. And the last one standing becomes the host of the Gu poison. So here's the weird thing that the uncool Nico did that was very uncool, go figure, is that he tried this same ritual on people. And so he took Kano and all his other students and sealed them inside of a room for 3 months and told them, all right, kids, last one standing can get out. You got 3 months and there's only enough food for one of you to survive for that long. Get to killing. You're all my best students. I trust you. At least that's how I feel like he should talk in the, English dub. And so when he took on this ritual, Kano, his mind turned into a beast, bro. And I'm not talking like the good kind of beast mode. Like, no, he didn't go into a beast. He is a literal animalistic, like, feral at this point. He lost his sense of humanity, and he doesn't gain it back until Katahara found him inside of that room. So this beast-like persona, I'm going to call this the beast side of Kano. It's when he has that creepy smile that he always puts up before he switches into formless. As Minoru pointed it out, this is like a defense mechanism that he uses. It's where he initially reverts back to where he was back during the ritual, when he just went to do nothing but killing for upwards of 3 months. Or we don't even know how long the ritual actually lasted for. There's like so much that could have potentially happened during the ritual, and I'm very glad we don't see it, because it would have been disgusting. But in the beginning of the series, we see Kano switch between his regular cool, calm-like demeanor into this feral being whenever he goes into formless. Where although it's not really like feral, where he's out here biting people and such, he still fights with, some kind of finesse, some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Some kind of coordination. But everyone sees it as just unpredictable movements. And this is like the thing with the whole formless fighting style. We'll get into that later, don't worry. The funny thing when it comes to Katahara finding Kano is that Kano is just sitting there in the room. You got like some of the other bodyguards are there saying, "Sir, I think that the room is all empty." "No, wait, we found one." Then you just see Kano just sitting down in an empty room by himself, all these bodies lying around. I'm pretty sure this place smells dank, bro. It probably smells horrific. It reeks of dead bodies, blood everywhere. Like, his nostrils gotta be fried at this point. Anyways, when they found Kano, Katahara took him in, and that's when he started to give him back his sense of humanity. This persona that we know Kano as, who is a really, really good fighter that respects other strong fighters. Now, here's the thing when it comes to Kano's personality, and we're just going to jump into that now, is that the best way to really think about Kano's personality is if you believe that Kano has a split personality. You have the Kano that Katahara made, and then you have the Kano that the ritual made. So when Kano is talking it through the personality that Katahara and the bodyguards fastened for him, that's when he's talking normally using the pronoun I, but he uses we to refer to himself when he's in his beast form, when he starts using formless. In the series is translated from watashi, which means I, to ore, which would mean we in Japanese. So someone who speaks Japanese fluently, please, by all means, comment down below. Let me know if that's really the case, or if it's just another way of letting us, the readers, know that Kano is actually considering himself to be two different people when he's in his beast mode, which I think would be so much better for the story. Anyways, continuing on with his personality, The Kano that is a, really good fighter, cool, level-headed, calm, and uses a crap ton of martial arts that are really, really good. But as Kuroki pointed out in Omega, it's not that he mastered any of these forms. He's just really strong. We do see a lot of people try to make him become more human. Katahara, I've already said this multiple times and I'll say it again. There is a little bit of a scene right there where Kano is just chained up and just see him going crazy. Meanwhile, Katahara is just like, okay, how does that make you feel, Sonny? All right, all right. And eventually Katahara helped Kano forge a personality that could be seen in front of other people, where he becomes this calm, level-headed fighting machine that when he fights, his brutal animalistic side slips out, but that's okay. Funny thing, actually, when it comes to Minoru and Kano, when they were younger and Kano was just getting acquainted with all the other bodyguards, the reason that Minoru wears that mask is because Kano did something outrageous during their spar at one point, where it just left a mark onto Minoru's face. And we see this mark show up a little bit in the anime, but we see the detailing in it a lot more in the manga. You can see it here where his face is like ripped apart, almost like how Katakuri's looks in One Piece. But I don't know what the heck Kano probably did to him, but this man was looking down at him ever since then. And this gives me a little bit more information about how Katahara works with the bodyguards, which, by the way, he's grabbing them when they were young and just training them upwards to become these monsters. So that's a video in and of itself. And when the Annihilation tournament was over, Minoru actually gave Kano a bike. He gave him a motorcycle at the end and said, here you go, man. Take my whip. I ain't going to use it no more. Or is it hog? I don't know. I don't know motorcycle lingo. I'm sorry. But he set Kano up with a motorcycle, so Kano eventually became the Kamen Rider Agito. As the Fang of Metsudo, Kano, he wants to prove that he is simply stronger than anyone, but he doesn't announce it to the heavens. He doesn't pull off all these flashy moves, and he's there to just body you and not just win, but win by beating you at your own game, okay? In Ashura, he doesn't just jump right into formless and starts duffing people. No, he fights using his martial arts knowledge in order to win, and if he needs to, whenever it's necessary, then he'll go into formless. After his match with Kaolan, his beast personality remained present, and we see the frustration that he has on his face as he knows that he wasn't able to win because of his strength. Instead, he had to win through the use of tactics, which Beast Kano sees as cowardice, at least according to Katahara. This is the exact opposite of how Xena views arm wrestling back in Danmaru. To her, arm wrestling, whenever she's up against anyone, it's always through the use of tactics, and that's her flex. She flexes on people by using tactics in order to be better than them, not for the fact that she's stronger, because she's not stronger, but she can beat anyone in arm wrestling so long as she utilizes her tactics. Of course, until she gets washed by Hibiki, who also got washed by, Machio, but this is a different story. Let's get back to Kano. That was just me trying to fit Danmaru into the video. You're welcome. Anyways, there's no way I can talk about Kano's personality without bringing up his broship with the one and only Okubo himself. I'm not taking that joke back. But after Okubo was absolutely wiped off of the face of the Kengan Annihilation tournament by Kano's cheeks, they actually grew to become good friends. And in fact, after the Annihilation tournament, Okubo taught Kano about Zedon and Ultraman, and they even go out drinking at a point. Now, here's an interesting thing about Kano and drinking. Despite being a 6'8", 284-pound absolute unit, Kano can't handle carbonated drinks and would actually prefer drinking Kahlua with milk. Now, Kano also drags Okubo out to go hunting for Godzilla because he saw a movie poster for Godzilla. Yes, this man Kano saw a poster for Godzilla, called up Okubo and said, hey bro, I'm gonna need your help. I found this thing, we gotta go catch it. It's a mysterious creature, I need to go fight it. And Okubo probably waking up groggily in the morning, he's like, all right then, let's go. This whole little combination between each other, it does surface when Omega rolls around, because during Kano's fight with Lucian, which I'm pretty sure I've said this man's name wrong 3 times, but anyways, during that match, you see Okubo's out here cheering his heart out for him, and then they embrace each other for a nice little loving, bro hug. And Kanoh even smiled at him, so you know they definitely are on good terms and not just people who you fight alongside with. It's a little bit more than that, not that much, calm that down, but they're good friends. Also, Kanoh refers his baths to be scorching hot. Like, I'm talking really, really hot. Like, if it's less than 45 degrees Celsius, it is an ice bath to him. I can't get down with that. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about his fighting style. So there are a few things you really can't ignore when it comes to Kanoh. One thing is going to be his evolution ability, where each time Kanoh faces a strong opponent, he will get stronger. Like, he himself almost levels up and gains experience with each fighter. It's almost like he has a little experience bar going higher and higher each time he faces a new opponent. It's almost like a game of Pokemon. As he fights stronger people, he gains more experience, and his ability to adapt to any situation, no matter what the fight entails, gets better and better, and so does Kanoh as a fighter in the same way. And then you have his adapting ability. Now, the best way I can show this as an example is in his match against Kaolan. Kanoh pretty much pulled the BS no jutsu and just created his own martial art, designed specifically to defeat Kaolan. It's a BS tactic to me, but it fits Kanoh's character given the amount of knowledge he has on martial arts. When he's using his martial arts, he utilizes pre-initiative a lot more and focuses on a lot more orthodox and aggressive fighting style. By the way, I always gotta say this, I'm not a fighter, so please take anything I'm saying with a grain of salt. If it isn't an orthodox or unorthodox, I don't know. It may be. This is what I'm reading, my guy, okay? Anyways, the martial arts knowledge that he has is really good. It pairs well with his absurdly good strength, and he combines it with his evolution ability so he can create some kind of bullshit. It's literally the bullshit no jutsu that allows him to just craft any kind of fighting style towards the situation. So he'll pair up the martial arts with his evolution to just be Kanoh. But that works even better when you also take into account formless. Now, formless is the key to Agito's arsenal. It is an irregular fighting style. There's no like one set way of how formless works. It focuses on just free-flowing movements that allow you to get a solid hit on your opponent no matter what kind of position you're in or how weirdly you have to move. And when Kanoh uses this, he gets into like this weird stance where it feels like his body is moving in these awkward ways, but he's able to move and hit these very effective punches and these very effective grapples, even though his body is moving in such a weird way that it looks, well, formless. It's like he's water that's trying to maneuver around. And so the thing that we should note as well is that Agito's formless style, as dominating as it is, it's incomplete. And Lucian is actually able to body Kanoh. We'll get into that when we talk about Omega, of course, though. But for all you anime onlys out there, this isn't even his final form. So let's go ahead and talk about the three type of attacks that he has named that we know him for using: the Dragon Shot, Dragon Vein, and the Dragon Climb. I say Dragon Vein, Dragon Rising, my bad. So Dragon Shot, the one that we know the most about, is synonymous to the 1-inch punch. It's an unblockable, sorry, I shouldn't say unblockable considering Kuroki blocked it, but it's an undodgeable attack that is really, really good. And it works even better considering this is Kanoh that we're talking about here. You see, Agito is able to produce knockout blows from any point of range, whether it be super long, short, middle, zero. All of his attacks have knockout power. And the fact that he has this ability within a zero range means he has no blind spots and can chain it into any attack, especially when he's in formless. So this makes the Dragon Shot really freaking powerful. If you're caught in any sort of a grapple and you don't have his hand, like his entire arm locked down, you're at range for a Dragon Shot. If you're literally as far away as Hatsumi was during the beginning of their match, you're at range for getting hit with a long range kick. Like, this man he's the god of range when it comes to Kengan Ashura. This is a 6'8", 280 unit that we're talking about here. He's swinging tree trunks with those legs. Look at them, massive, girthy. I mean, the other two attacks, Dragon Rising and Dragon Vein, were moves that he used against Julius in the later half of Omega. Now, we don't know too much about these techniques outside of them being like really, really powerful attacks that are synonymous to being named after dragons, which seems to be Agito's thing because, you know, Japan has a fixation when it comes to dragons. I wonder why. And we do know a little bit when it comes to Dragon Vein. It's a technique that strikes the body's vital points like a dragon slithering up through the earth, anticipating a lot more information as, you know, the fights go on. But Agito also has some knowledge when it comes to the Nico style, most notably when he used Indestructible during this match with Kaolan. Speaking of matches, I think it's time we go ahead and talk about the fights, okay? Because Kanoh has a huge resume when it comes to fighting. In fact, before the Annihilation tournament took place, he had 157 wins. And included in those wins are 2 guest stars and Waka, of course, but we all know that Waka got bodied by Kanoh. Anyways, Kanoh actually did fight 2 characters that we already know about in the series. One we knew about before in Ashura, and one we find out later on in Omega. So the one we found out earlier in Ashura is Hong Xiaohu, who was originally supposed to be the affiliated fighter for Togo at Hawami Heavy Industries. Yes, this is my excuse to bring in Togo into a Kanoh video. Accepted. Hong was originally meant to be a Hawami Heavy Industries fighter, but he lost in his match against Ray, to which Togo replaced him with Muteba. But to give Hong some credit, he was actually undefeated up until his 12th match against Kanoh, to which Kanoh absolutely bodied him. But thankfully enough, Hong, because of his, you know, special ability, or rather because he's a practitioner of Ji Quan, he doesn't actually feel pain, which is actually pretty badass. So, you know, I'll give him a point for that. The other person that Kanoh fought before the Annihilation tournament was Nitoku. And I'm talking like months before the Annihilation tournament, which is why Nitoku actually didn't take place in it. You see, before the tournament took place, a couple months previously too, Nitoku and Kanoh had a Kengan match. And in the result, Nitoku did lose and he was hospitalized for 6 months. Therefore, he was unable to take place in the tournament. But we can see from the pictures here that Kanoh was definitely smiling real hard. So we can already assume that back then, this is like the earlier days Kanoh, and so he is more than likely going formless against Nitoku, and whenever Kanoh goes formless during the match, he is definitely going to level up and get stronger. So Nitoku served the purpose before we even knew he existed in the series. Alright, so in this match with Okubo, they hyped him up, okay? Everyone was cheering out, Fang, 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 Fang in the stands, and they even freeze frame to all the other fighters acknowledging just how strong he was. And I'm pretty sure that, you know, the sound of his cheeks clapping alone put Muteba on high alert. But that's when he actually met Okubo, and they spent most of the time really just talking about how he looked like Zenon to Okubo. And they had that little back and forth where Okubo's like, yo, if you were a final boss, you'd be Zenon. Then Kano's like, wait, what the fuck is a Zenon? How does he fight? What's his martial art? How do I use it? And just really just asking him questions about it. And so what's really also interesting about this fight is that Chitatori, the ref, once again, he couldn't tell who was stronger out of the two, but he did do a little bit of foreshadowing to what Kanoh's moves was. So he called Kanoh a dragon where Okubo was a tiger, so that kind of gives off hint to most of his names being called Dragon Shot, Dragon Vein, everything like that. Now, take off to the fight, and it leads off with Kanoh dominating Okubo. Then Okubo started mixing things up, okay? He was hitting him with the whole blows, throws, locks, holds, synthesis. And, you know, I'll go more in depth with this one in my Okubo video, but pretty much think of it as Okubo is just countering everything that Kanoh was trying to do at this point. So what's important about this fight is that it's the first time that we get to witness Kanoh fight, and it's the first time that we witness his evolution ability. This is where Kanoh goes into formless for probably like less than 10 seconds really, and just blows Okubo out of the water. He just demolishes him and even breaks his mental spirit when he wakes up. He moves on to the next round where he's then confronted by Waka, calls him a chump, and then he meets Ohma. And then he tells Ohma that there's literally no way that he could even win against him. Now, Ohma tried to run up on Kanoh, but really, Kanoh just proved his point by kicking Ohma so hard he was seeing spirits, okay? He kicked him so hard that Nico had to tell Ohma, hold on now. Let's not get a little too crazy, okay? The tournament just started. Let's not get packed up just yet. But this is Ohma we're talking about here. So, of course, he then still tried to fight him again, but Masamichi and Minoru stopped him. Onward to the next match with Kaolan. Now, this fight, we're introduced to Kanoh's ability to adapt and evolve in order to beat his opponent by literally creating a fighting style centered around beating Kaolan mid-fight. Now, This fight is where we see Kanoh start to show a lot more respect towards strong fighters, is before the match even started, his beast persona slipped out, and that's why we see that I is in quotes here. It's not necessarily that the beast persona is taking place the entire time, it's showing like I, as in we don't know if he's talking about I as in Kanoh or I as in the beast Kanoh. So after this, no words are really exchanged between them, and it's just silence as they took their stance, and Kano's lust to fight strong opponents by winning with his own strength took over, as he started to take that flicker stance towards Kaolan, which, by the way, that was really disrespectful of him, okay? He tried to beat him at his own style, but Kaolan proved that he was superior in boxing, so much so that he made Kanoh black out, technically beating the martial arts version of Kanoh. But as he blacked out, his beast side took over, and we see him start to refer to himself as we once again, so that kind of proves that point. Still wanting to win by overpowering though, he blocked off all options except for boxing. That's very important here because this is the first time that we see Kanoh was truly put into a corner. All of his other fights, like, of course, we don't actually see any other fights still, but it's said that all of his other fights didn't really challenge him to the level that Kaolan did. So after reaching this point, he finally adapted to how to actually beat him. Now, here's the thing. Kanoh already knew that Kaolan knew Muay Thai and called him out for trying to use it. Say, yo, I want you to use that Muay Thai. Give me everything you got. Come on, let's see it. And so Kaolan did just that and started bodying him left and right, and the fight continued until Kanoh instinctively adapted and overcame Kaolan's ability to put boxing and Muay Thai together. As oppressive as it was, the only option for Kanoh to win was to instinctually go for a grapple to secure the win. But you see, like I mentioned before, Kanoh's beast persona did not like the idea that he had to win through the use of strategy instead of the use of just overpowering his opponent at whatever the heck they believe that they're good at. He wanted to prove that he's better, but he couldn't do that against Kaolan. It was the first opponent that he was literally stuck against. That's when Masamichi then challenged Kanoh because he said, yo, you gotta prove to me you actually earned the right of Fang of Metsudo because I'm big Masamichi out here. It was a match to prove that Kanoh deserved the title of Fang of Metsudo after having to change up his tactics in order to beat Kaolan. Masamichi said, yo, man, look, if you gonna get up to the next fighting style, like, you gonna need to level up. You gotta get your shit together, because if you don't, I'ma fold you, then I'ma fight, then I'ma beat the next people up front. That's what we really think, because we really haven't actually seen Masamichi do anything in this series, so I don't know what the heck he thought he was gonna do. But anyways, Masamichi helped Kanoh learn where his weaknesses were when it came to fighting, and it was that he had that split moment between when he had to switch between formless and martial arts. So Kanoh needed to learn how to flip between the two. Then he had to learn how to decrease the lag time in between. Once he learned how to flip between formless and martial arts effectively, that's when he had his next match. And see, here's the thing. Before his match with Sen, he already adapted and evolved even further. So just by beating Kaolan, Okubo, Masamichi, this man, Kanoh, has leveled up so high that he is above the standard that Hatsumi originally prepared for. So no offense to Sen, but he probably could have beat Kanoh in the beginning of the tournament had Kanoh not have evolved to the level of which he did. Back then, he may have had more of a chance, but at this point in time, Kanoh has evolved way beyond anything or anyone's expectation. Even Kuroki was caught off guard, but Kanoh couldn't reach Kuroki. So when the match between Sen and Kanoh took place, Sen couldn't do anything. He was absolutely bodied left and right. Like, it wasn't even a fair fight. The ref was looking at him like, damn, bro, I don't even know how to react to this. So after sending Hatsumi to the morgue, after sending Hatsumi to the hospital, we then get the semifinals against Kuroki. Now, bro, Kuroki. This match was what I consider to be the final battle of Kengan Ashura. So what's very important to note is that when this match started, Kanoh immediately referred to himself as we. And I think this is the case for him going forward, where he always refers to himself as we accept your challenge. We would like to fight you. We would like to destroy you. We will win. We would clap your cheeks. We would like to play. As the fight took place, Kanoh is already having Kuroki on the ropes, literally hitting him blow for blow, strike for strike, and Kuroki's just eating that shit like it's a breakfast ham. So this is where all of Kanoh's strikes don't really get past them, as Kuroki is just being better. It's just what he does. He's just being better. But this is kind of what we're talking about here, the Fang of Metsudo. So despite the fact that Kuroki is the master when it comes to defense, Kanoh was still going all out and was actually putting in the work on Kuroki. This is what I'm talking about when I say that this is literally the final battle when it comes to Kengan Ashura. This is the master of offensive tactics versus the master of defensive tactics. And as Kanoh said, he cannot face a master like Kuroki with his martial arts alone. That's when he has to switch into the beast version of Kanoh. This is now Kanoh actually having a lot more control over his formless mode. And so now he's using his beast-like tactics in formless and absolutely dominating against Kuroki. But this is Kuroki we're talking about here, the unshakable, the unbreakable, the undisputed champion when it comes to Kengan Ashura, the old-timer, the experienced veteran. I'm getting out of hand. But this is when Kanoh starts switching up on Kuroki, just as he would with Okubo, except he's not switching up between just the locks, throws, blows, holds, and everything. He's switching up between using formless styles and martial arts. So this is a completely different way of going about it. He's going from formless martial arts, formless martial arts, formless martial arts. And really any other fighter outside of Kuroki would never have been able to defend that much. But in this situation, Kanoh had evolved further than anything that he's ever done before. So he's beyond where his peak is. He's going beyond, like even further beyond on some Goku type shit. Even that couldn't reach Kuroki. Eventually, Kanoh gets in close and tries to go for a dragon shot, but it misfires as Kuroki then breaks his wrist before he can even land the hit. At this point, it was just over. Unfortunately, Kanoh had no real answer outside of trying to utilize kicks, but it wasn't really gonna work against them because this is Kuroki we're talking about here. Now, after his match with Kuroki, we're introduced to something really interesting, that Katahara actually invited Kuroki to the tournament. No one else really knew that besides the two. So here's what's really interesting about this. This would imply that Katahara was just bored of being the chairman for so many years and that he knew that he couldn't be a big fish in a small pond, which would imply that he sees the Kengan Association, one of the top fighting orgs, as a small pond, which really does make sense considering that we don't know where the heck Kuroki came from. But this also gives ways of seeing how Katahara views the world, because you got to remember, Katahara already knew about the worm and how strong people like Nico, people like, I believe the Connector, he was already aware of them. And so he needed to find someone who was strong enough to take out Agito so that he can be free. But after Agito lost in the tournament, that's when he resigns as the Fang of Metsudo. Now, here's one more thing, and I keep on like saying one more thing, but he says we will resign as the Fang of Metsudo, but we don't see him actually smile. We see the back of his head here. So we don't know if it's like Kanoh talking to like Metsudo as both him and the beast, or it's just the beast talking. All we know afterwards is that his time is done. He gets on his motorcycle and homie drives off. Shout out to Minoru. Now with that, let's go on to Kengan Omega. In Omega, he actually has one of the coolest reappearances in the series. He's seen driving around in the desert in America, and he's going under the nickname AG, which is kind of like, short Agito AG. I ain't gonna lie, it's kind of like it fits him a little bit better than the Fang, but it's definitely not as cool as being called Fang. And that's when I Am Him Aro finds him, and that's where we can tell that Kanoh has definitely changed over time. He's actually out here making jokes with Himuro. He is saying, yo, let me get a Jack and Coke straight up. Just a Jack and Coke. Let me get a double Jack straight up. Bro is drinking heavy midday. I can tell you that the sun is still up, man. God dang. Himuro tells him that Katahara sent over the 8th Fang of Metsudo, and Kanoh's surprised that there is 8 Fangs of Metsudo when he was just the 5th and only 2 years went by. And this is because Yumigahara, someone who I've never mentioned before in any of my videos, by the way, but Yumigahara was one of the rookie bodyguards that was selected to be the 6th Fang of Metsudo, and he turned traitor and joined Purgatory. So knowing that someone actually betrayed Katahara just to get the name Fang of Metsudo in order to join Purgatory and make more money, this man Kanoh went full beast again and said, nah, I'm joining. Whatever it takes, I'm going to get back for the master. And I'm with that all the way. Unfortunately, Kanoh was not able to get the get back on Yumigahama because he was an absolute pussy and tried to avoid Kanoh during the Purgatory match. Thankfully enough though, he did get folded by Misasa, which will be in a video I'll talk about later. I just want to say that thank God that Misasa actually bodied Yumigahama, because I can't stand this Donkey Kong looking ass motherfucker. Anyways, let's get on to his fight during Purgatory. So his opponent in Purgatory was Liu Tian, who, although he was in a similar build with Kanoh, he did provoke him before their match by showing off a little bracelet. Now that bracelet did symbolize that Liu Tian was actually a survivor of the Gu ritual as well as Kanoh. Now this is of course a different Gu ritual. It's one that the uncool Tokita Nico did later on in the series. So their fight was actually a fight with formless style versus the formless style. But here's the catch. Liu Tian, when he was training under Tokita Nico, the uncool Nico, Liu Tian did not learn the actual Nico style. What he learned was formless, and it was a perfected version of formless. And he learned how to do removal. Yes, the secret Curie tech. So he tried using both of these on Kanoh, but of course this is Kanoh we're talking about here, man. So it wasn't gonna stop Liu Tian from catching the dragon shot right to the gut, then right to the face, and then allowing Kanoh to win the match. What's crazy about this match is that it really felt like Sandro was playing creative player by giving someone both formless and freaking removal at the same time just for them to get washed by Kanoh. The next fight he has is against Jirota. Now, my thing with this fight is that it is one of the most intense fights in Omega, period. At no point in time did it feel like one person was being completely dominated by the other, and this is because he has one of the most oddly broken moves when it comes to judo practitioners. Anything that Jirota touches, he can throw. If he even nips you just a little bit, he can literally fling you to the ground. So at no point in time can Kanoh technically rest. And so when we were seeing Jirota trying to throw blows at him, it wasn't even like he was trying to throw a punch. No, he was reaching out, trying to get 2 fingers just to grab him. And mind you, this is after Kanoh took off his shirt. Pause. But this is after Kanoh took off his shirt and Jirota was still a threat to him. I know this is a Kanoh video, but I'm really struggling to write about this fight without praising Jirota so much. It's so much back and forth. This video would take another 20 minutes, but let's keep going because I don't want to talk about too much with Kanoh taking an L. Let's move on to the Champions Tournament where it's Kanoh versus Julius. Like, I lied because he actually ended up fighting Ziyan for a little bit of time. Now, his match with Ziyan wasn't really a match. It was just him and Kuroki and Lolong all pulling up on the worm just for, you know, a quick little squabble, if you would. But he doesn't really do anything too crazy here. He doesn't even really fight Ziyan, at least on screen he doesn't. He just stands there menacingly, and the next time we see him fight is in a winner's tournament against Julius. I just gotta throw that part in there before I forget about it. So this match with Julius had a lot of back and forth, but really it just served the purpose of cementing the Fang of Metsudo is just as fearsome as he was in early Ashura. So tanking on Julius even when he was at full powered, God Killer rock drills and all and everything, and just absolutely demolished him. It felt like it was close, but in reality it really wasn't as close as some people would make it seem, and by some people I mean Kazi. And so that's the last time we actually get to see Kanoh fighting so far. His next opponent is going to be Lolong in the tournament, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. Comment down below who you guys expect to win out of those two. In conclusion, Kanoh, the big booty of Metsudo, is undisputedly one of the strongest characters in this series and has always been regarded as such. The mighty claps from his cheeks echoes throughout the heavens, creating fear to even Zeus himself. And with that, I say thank you so much for watching the video. This was a very long one to create, and I look forward to seeing you all for the next one. You guys have a wonderful day and take care.
He is faster than other boxers.
This man, in that short instant, he was responding to my movements.
My, you certainly are fast, aren't you? It's too bad. I could have dislocated your wrists.